Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're going to give it a minute just to let everybody here into the Zoom. Appreciate you all hopping on for our first community hour since we are now Elevate Technology User Group. So we'll get started shortly.
This is inaugural, isn't it?
It is.
Very cool. So while everybody comes in, say hello from where you are. I know Ash and Suzanne and Mike are all down in Texas. So the great state of Texas is well represented here. I'm up in Massachusetts, got a little bit of the cool Northeast. Anne's in Chi-Town. So
I'm in Chicago and it's actually nice here. We're enjoying the summer weather as long as it lasts.
fantastic. And
Look at
Matt
that sun
Wakefield,
coming through.
our vice president, Elevate User Group, has just joined us. Matt, are you in and around the Baltimore region, or where are you?
I am. I'm in the rainy Baltimore region.
Is it raining right now? All right, good.
Yeah.
And rainy DC. All right, very good. Vancouver, Canada. Awesome. Okay, Anne, should we get started?
Sure, we can get started here. Again, I just wanted to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first community hour since we launched as the Elevate Technology User Group right around the same time as Dell Technologies World. So it's been a busy last month for us. Again, just thank you for being here. My name is Anne Sari. I am the Executive Director of the Elevate Technology User Group. We have a great program in store for you today, and it's a little bit different of a program that David's going to share more details with you on shortly. But just as a reminder, with our recent rebrand, we do have kind of an updated charter. And our priority is focusing on customers who are using Dell Technologies on the multi-cloud journey to modernize their infrastructure. So our goal is to help members advance their people, their process, and their infrastructure to drive better business outcomes. So that's the purpose of the group. And we'll talk a little bit more about the rebrand, but our goal is to expand that conversation with everyone. For today's program, we're going to talk about Dell Technologies World, some recent announcements, and we're also going to talk about the rebrand. But I would actually like to pass it to David now, and David's going to talk more detail about today's discussion. And we'll also kind of go through, we have some polling questions for you today. So, and please ask questions. There's the chat, there's the Q&A. If you have any questions for our group here today, we would love to hear from you and join the conversation to make sure you're getting as much value out of this session. So David, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne, and welcome everybody for our inaugural Elevate Technology User Group Community Hour. But we're going to do this in, as Anne was saying, in a town hall forum. I am joined today with a fantastic panel and almost put out of work by Anne with that fantastic introduction. But what we want to touch on real quick is we'll introduce everybody. We want to hit on some DTW highlights for those of you who aren't able to go, but DTW was also a little bit ago, so we can refresh your memory. Then we're going to get into, there were tons of announcements. So we've got Ash McCarty here from Dell Technologies Multi-Cloud Product Management. He's going to help walk us through those announcements. And, Mike, Suzanne, and Matt were all there. They're going to be able to provide, well, Matt wasn't there. He wanted to be there. Sorry about that, Matt. So Matt can provide that perspective for those of you who weren't there and really drill into it. But Mike and Suzanne can provide the perspective of what they heard at the time and the conversations that they had with the customers. So we'll get right into it. As Anne mentioned, please do use the chat, use the Q&A. We'd love you to be involved. And there's really a lot to go through. And then towards the end, we'll, hit all of your questions, wrap it up, and then maybe close with some other cool ideas. But there's a lot to cover. So Ash McCarty, thank you for joining. As I mentioned, Ash is Director of Multi-Cloud Product Management at Dell Technologies. Mike Vlanek, thank you for joining. Mike is Senior Manager of Global Infrastructure for Topgolf and a board member. Matt Wakefield is the Vice President of the Elevate Technologies User Group. So thank you, Matt. And Suzanne Pickett is a board member of the Elevate Technologies User Group. Pardon me. She is also a very newly crowned SVP of Infrastructure Engineering at Citizens Bank. So Suzanne, thank you so much and welcome. And of course, we've got Ann Sari joining as the Executive Director as well. Panel, thank you for joining. Welcome. Suzanne, we'll start with you. Please just give a little context for folks about your new role and what you're doing so that if they've got questions or if it resonates with them, they know who to ask questions to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people will be on this journey, this transformation journey. So I'm currently focused really on ground to cloud application delivery. So getting very traditional, in our case, financial applications into public cloud. So working a lot on that application, understanding those apps, dependency mappings, and then helping our business deliver them into cloud. We're also focusing, so that's ground to cloud. We're also going to be focusing on potentially cloud to cloud in the future for a multi-cloud approach. And then we'll also have some ground to ground cloud type migrations as well. So that's my focus area. As you mentioned, David, I'm fairly new to the role, so I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, congratulations. That's fantastic. And we're all pulling for you. And, you know, as you go through this, you're always great at remembering to bring up best practices or lessons learned and share those with the members. So really great resource. Thank you, Suzanne. Mike Z, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great today. Absolutely. In
All right.
Sunny Dallas.
Well, congratulations. That's nice to hear. I hope the power stays on and it's not too hot for you. Real quick,
Right.
Set the context for folks. What's your responsibilities at Topgolf, please?
Yep, sure. So manage a lean and mean team of architects and engineers. We are focused very heavily on our global infrastructure with offices all over the globe, as well as Topgolf venues all over the globe. So a huge VxRail customer. We leverage a lot of GPU workloads within those VxRail. So that's near and dear to my heart, as Ash knows. And we are growing like crazy. If we're not growing, we're stagnant, and that ain't happening. So.
Very good, very good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun at the venue in Vegas when we were out there for DTW. So thank you for bringing those closer. I think one's coming up, or maybe two are coming up in the Northeast here sometime soon. So that'd be great. Matt, sorry you couldn't make it to DTW. Vice President of the Elevate User Group. So, you know, you're here. There were a lot of announcements. I'd love to pick your brain, or maybe you could kick it off with Ash. What are your thoughts as somebody who wasn't there? You saw some announcements, you heard some announcements. What's kind of top of mind for you?
You know, I think for me, the announcements around the Apex cloud platforms with Microsoft and Red Hat are very interesting. So, you know, that's something I definitely want to hear more about. It really was disappointed I wasn't able to go last minute. Schedule change and wasn't able to go, but I think that's probably my top one I'd love to hear about.
Well, cool. I think we might have somebody here who can help with that. Ash, what did we announce at DTW that's near and dear to your heart?
Well, I mean, first, the DTW was incredible. I think the final attendance was something over north of 9,000 customers, and so it was great to see everyone in person. I know last year we were in person, was the first year back, and it was kind of not full capacity. This year it really felt full capacity. I think some of the big announcements were across multiple areas of the portfolio, like multi-cloud, edge, AI, security. But the one that I'll talk a lot about today, which is clearly near and dear to my heart, is multi-cloud. So we had made I think 9 total announcements. So I think this is a great opportunity to get with the audience and talk a lot about some of those announcements in more in depth, because I think a lot of customers I talked to were really impressed with the announcement, but it was overwhelming because there was just so much stuff. So we're excited to share that today.
Yeah, and you and your team, you know, we were talking a little bit before we before we kicked off here. Things haven't slowed down. Is that fair to say?
No, they've accelerated. Yeah. So I think what was interesting about this DTW is because these new 9 announcements, they kind of came out of nowhere. There's some things we talked about last year with Project Alpine, but with the Apex Cloud platforms and some of the other things we did with the Apex Navigator, it was kind of out of left field. Customers knew we were working on Project Alpine and we made it real at this announcement, but there was so much more. So I think customers were grappling with all the new announcements and didn't really have a time to grok it at DTW to really formulate their questions. But in the 2-3 weeks since DTW, there's been an avalanche of interest in saying, hey, as they've gone through the collateral, watched the videos, all that kind of stuff is they want to learn more, and they're really chomping at the bit. So that's why it's been a fantastic couple of weeks since then, but just very, very busy.
Yeah, good time to take a vacation, right?
Yeah, my 14th.
So let's kick it off with the Apex Cloud platforms. As Matt mentioned, 2 flavors, but we actually announced 3 flavors, right? Apex Cloud Platform for Microsoft, for Red Hat or OpenShift, and for VMware. Can you walk us through, big to small, what is the Apex Cloud Platform, and how should we be thinking about this?
Yeah, so I think maybe the level set first is and one thing I think we could have done a better job, I'll be critical of our team and myself, is just really about the Apex brand, because I think Dell has spent the last 2 years really talking about Apex and the brand itself. And when we announce these offerings under the Apex banner, we want to kind of elaborate first on what this means. So all these new multi-cloud offers I'll talk about today, including the Apex Cloud platforms under the Apex branding. And for the last 2 years, we've talked about Apex as a way to simplify and kind of an easy way to consume Dell infrastructure as a service, kind of with a modern consumption model. But what we've done with the new Apex Cloud platforms and some of the new Apex announcements is really evolve that branding. So it does still encompass all our as a service, and we're still going to build on those offers. And we announced Apex PC as a service and many other things, Apex Bare Metal as a service, all that was announced. But it also, now we're supplementing the Apex brand with to mean anything with a modern cloud experience. So it doesn't necessarily specifically mean that these new multi-cloud offers are consumed as a service. They're actually consumed as traditional infrastructure, customer managed, customer owned. So that's the first thing to say, is these are going to be transacted much like VxRail is today, that if you're using that product or many of our other infrastructure products. Specifically to your question, now that we've kind of got that out of the way, if you want to look at the Apex Cloud platforms, they really encompass something, that Suzanne was talking about earlier, as she was talking about ground to cloud. These are really our cloud to ground strategy. And what that means is, as part of these offers, we're trying to provide a cloud operational model on-prem. So by partnering with industry leaders, and we've partnered with 3, Red Hat for launching an OpenShift-based platform. We've partnered with Microsoft for an Azure-based platform. And then we continue into partnering with VMware, because they're obviously a huge player in the virtualization market, and with Tanzu with Kubernetes. So all 3 of those partners were working together. And so what we're doing is anchoring on a very similar model we did with VxRail. So if you think about the success of VxRail, we partnered with VMware, provide this deep integration with their ecosystem with vSphere and vSAN. We provided automated infrastructure management, lifecycle deployment. And that resonated very well with our customers because it simplified their operations. So what we've done now is, with these Apex Cloud platforms, is recreate that experience, not only in the verticals with Red Hat, Microsoft, and VMware, but also on the horizontal by standardizing on operations across it. So if you're a multi-cloud customer saying, I'm using Red Hat for containers, and I'm using, let's say, Microsoft for virtualization, you can now have one platform that has seamless operations across your infrastructure, but also tightly integrated with each of those different ecosystems.
It seems really timely, and like, the next step. I know Matt was saying he was interested in, because Matt, you run multiple hypervisor environment, right?
Correct.
And I imagine you're not the only one out there who's doing this.
Yeah. That's what we're hearing, and that's what we're hearing from customers. That's exactly, you said that right. That's timely. Is I think if you look back, why we talked about Project Alpine, and we can talk about that more in a second, but why we talked about Project Alpine is when customers talk about multi-cloud, they have a myriad of challenges about how they deploy their workloads in the cloud, how they're deploying on-prem, how they kind of get seamless operations between them, the challenges they have with cost and management, and there's retraining and the different APIs, and we just hear all the different challenges they have. So we wanted to kind of be that great simplifier. And so that's what all the announcements are. The 9 announcements are both about the cloud to ground, right? So the Apex Cloud platforms, but also the ground to cloud. So taking our storage and data protection software and make it available in each of the public clouds, but having kind of a seamless operation model between all pieces of that. So you can, regardless of what cloud you're working with, regardless of what partner you're working with, Microsoft, VMware, Red Hat, or any in the future that we continue to partner with, you'll have the way you deploy and manage your infrastructure will be consistent. And so that hopefully is what we've been hearing so far from customers, is that gives them the simplification they need to focus on kind of those business critical. Every time I talk to customers, they don't want to spend time really managing the infrastructure. They want it just to work, and they expect it to be automated, easy to use, and they want to go focus on the cool things of changing the world in their area of business and accelerating their business outcomes. So it's really been delivering on those promises we made, and kind of even expanding into more areas than we said we would.
Awesome. Matt, Mike, Suzanne, any reactions to that? And Anne, I think we might even have some polls here that we could get ready. So I will toss it over to the panel to react to that while we get ready to bring a polling question up. Looks like Mike, are you about to say something?
I was giving Matt a chance because I know he's more into this realm than myself, but I think it feels to me like the next logical progression of this, right? And being able to do like seamlessly deploy workloads wherever the customer determines they need those to live, and to not have to figure out the nuance of putting it in this cloud or this cloud or this cloud, but more just being able to point and fire as opposed to really digging in and figuring out that nuance.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about reducing the friction and moving more of our infrastructure to software defined and automated platforms, which these announcements definitely move us in that direction, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I think it's about flexibility and options, right? Once you have that portability of building in, again, that modernization within your applications, and determining where the right target or landing zone is for that is, it becomes the easy part. And to Ash's point, you can focus on more value-added activities, your next iteration, your next automation, and truly getting end-to-end automation in place. So it takes away a lot of the toil and churn, and allows you to focus on the right things, and then leveraging your strategic partners to kind of your trusted partners to take care of some of that underlying infrastructure pieces that we all used to care about so much in the past. So no, I think it's a great direction, and I really love the options to catering to not just a single channel, if you will, but being able to have those options and let the business make a choice on what's the right path for them.
Now, I've gotten a lot of questions also about customers saying, what does this mean? I'm invested heavily in PowerFlex or VxRail. So I want to be clear is that the Apex Cloud platforms, while they're a new offer, they're not a replacement for our existing and market offers. So still heavily invested in VxRail, PowerFlex, and many parts of the business. So it doesn't replace any of the existing offers. They're just all complementary. So really what the goal was is exactly what everyone's been highlighting, is we want to provide customers that kind of additional level of flexibility and options when they're deploying, and give them that same level of automation management, however they're deploying their infrastructure. So think of these as complementary to the new to what we have existing in the portfolio today.
Yeah,
And
right
Ash,
tool for the right job, right? So it makes a lot of sense.
I'll also piggyback on that. I think that's kind of the big thing about the Elevate Technology User Group. It's really highlighting the and conversation. It's not an or conversation, it's an and. Let's talk about this and that. How do these ands enable members to do better? and drive better business outcomes.
Sure.
Speaking
And
of, the poll results are landslide Amazon. So that's probably an and we're gonna have to address eventually.
So I think you can see, so the background for the poll question is because we're constantly innovating. And this time next year, we'd like to be able to come to DTW and say, here's all the new stuff we have with all these new partners. So already working with a lot of relationships with other cloud partners and other industry leaders. So it always helps to have feedback. I think we talked about, if you were at I'll echo this quote, and I won't be able to say it as eloquently as Michael did, but Michael was at our Elevate technology user group that we had in Vegas in the House of Blues, and he came in to talk, and someone asked him how was Dell able to successfully grow the business. And I think his statement was something along the lines of, we have big ears and we listen to our customers, and that's very true. So your feedback in this user group and your feedback when you talk to us specifically and give us some of the responses we get from the polls, or even talking to you one-on-one, is tremendously valuable, because it helps drive and steer our compass on where we invest our resources and how we can better solve the problems that you guys have that you're trying to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Yeah, that was fun. And it's always great to get him in front of the members. And I will say that I think, this might have been, Chris Stanley was pretty nervous standing up there for his first time on the stage with Michael Dell, but this was the most relaxed and just comfortable. And Michael Dell just looked like he was in his element.
Yeah, he was definitely off the hip and very comfortable with Chris.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Chris had a foot on Michael, though, right?
Yeah,
Not
Chris is not a
quite.
small human.
I think, though, that Michael was really engaging with the audience and not afraid really to have that dialogue. So when our members got up and they asked the question, there was some real authenticity coming from Michael there. So it wasn't just, kind of by rote what you would hear, but it was real dialogue happening. And I think that also shows the value of being part of the Elevate technology user group, right? So you get that one-on-one time with, not only people like Ash, who was also presenting, but Michael Dell comes to the meeting and he's listening to what you as our customers and members are saying, and that's pretty valuable. And I think he even kind of pushed back a little bit on someone asking a question, and we had some good chuckles with that. But you don't often get time with somebody like Michael Dell, so it was a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, it was
Ash,
fantastic.
right? I can't forget Ash.
Of course, yeah. Now, for those who weren't there, and what did we have? We had almost 250 folks, right? So Ash, you were saying we're back at like pre-COVID numbers, and yeah, we're House of Blues was packed, and in a good way. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think we also, there's a couple more polls, and I don't know when you want to do that, but Ash and Mike, just shout out when you want to do that. Ash, I do want to take some time to dig into Project Alpine. You mentioned it multiple times. If you could just, set the context for folks, maybe provide any updates. How should members think about Project Alpine?
Yeah, so last year we announced Project Alpine in very limited details, right? Initial, because we were working through it. So this year we announced essentially, so we talked about the 3 offers we had with Apex Cloud Platforms, each aligned with Red Hat, Microsoft, and VMware. We had actually 6 offers aligned to Project Alpine that we announced, which kind of, I think, blew everyone's mind, because it was so much more than what we kind of previewed last year. So basically, Project Alpine has evolved, and we have it branded and named. So it's going to be called Apex Storage for Public Cloud. And it really encompassed, we talked about the cloud platforms being our cloud to ground strategy. This is our ground to cloud strategy. So this is taking our portfolio of storage and data protection software. So think about block file data protection software you use day to day. So these things are like PowerFlex, our PowerFlex software, our PowerScale software, our data protection software, and making it available in each of the public clouds. So starting with AWS and Azure and expanding out to others. And so it's the same software you're familiar with today and use on-prem. So kind of, again, think of that common operational model, same capabilities. And so that's will be available, and we'll continue to build out that portfolio with other parts of our software in our portfolio. And so there's kind of 4 offers there. And then we kind of, what I think surprised a lot of people is then we had 2 additional offers tied to what we're calling Apex Navigator. So this kind of ties it all together. Think of Apex Navigator as a new SaaS-based control plane that's part of Apex Console. And so that's really how you manage that Dell storage software that we're bringing to the public cloud. So it provides kind of that centralized management, and that's where you'll deploy, once you log in and you have secure login, you'll deploy, manage, you'll lifecycle all that software in the public cloud, but also it will allow you that ability to orchestrate data mobility. So you'll be able to orchestrate data mobility from your infrastructure running on-prem. So say you're running PowerFlex on-prem or one of our Apex Cloud platforms on-prem, you can orchestrate data mobility from that on-prem up to any of those clouds where it's running, and then from cloud to cloud as well. So it's pretty powerful from that stance. And then we also said, we're seeing a lot of customers that are, starting to deploy container workloads. So we also introduced Apex Navigator for Kubernetes, and the same kind of concept, kind of SaaS-based control console in Apex Console. And it basically allows you to scale Kubernetes workloads with like data services and application services, mobility for Kubernetes as well. So it's like a lot of stuff. And that's why I said is we've seen that avalanche of feedback, because there was so much announced that it was kind of brain overload. And then as people had the conversations at the meetings, and as people started to consume that content, it's been people have kind of started to grok the whole picture and the whole strategy and how powerful it is.
Yeah, it was huge, and to be just it was a landslide. Matt, thoughts on what you're hearing?
Well, I mean, it's an amazing slate of announcements. I think it's going to take everybody a while to digest these, really, figure out where they fit and where they all map into our roadmaps going forward. I mean, just tons of new functionality. If anything, it was a bit overwhelming. I think that, certainly for some of us looking at all these, but lots of opportunities. Definitely absolutely interested in the SaaS management plane. Those are becoming incredibly popular. So lots in the bucket for us, that's for sure.
Pardon me. As we look at this and digest it all, we've got another perfect timing for a poll. Thanks for your help there, Ann. That's great. So the capabilities when using a SaaS-based product, folks, please take some time and answer this so that we can share those results with you.
Yeah. So I think this is a corollary, like what I said earlier, so we're investing a lot in these new portfolio of multi-cloud products, and as we expand feature sets, and I know probably on this list you want to check several boxes. I get that. I tried to make it, hey, what's the top thing, and so this will help us align future features functionality. So I appreciate all the feedback.
As a panelist, I can't vote, but I was trying to click several boxes on there as well, so I can relate.
So while we wait for everybody to roll in, so Mike, which one were you, like, if you had to pick one, what's the one that you would pick?
I mean, security and data privacy is way up there. Obviously, anytime we're putting that sort of information in a SaaS-based product, we want to know that it's secure. We want to know that what we're putting outside of our environment is going to be handled with the utmost care. If I could check another one, reporting and analytics is another big one, right? Anytime we're using these types of products, there's a lot of interest in making sure from a reporting perspective and from analytics perspective that we're able to report back on time to value, just value proposition overall. And so those are kind of the two big ones for me.
Two big ones for you. Suzanne, what about you want to weigh in as a panelist? Not that you can sway the vote, but
I think I already did.
Yes, it was going up. It was going up before
so,
you.
To be transparent, I have not seen the polls for some reason. They're not showing up for me. So But I'll mimic what Mike said. Obviously, security, cyber risk and governance, compliance, those things are pretty clear, but I can't comment on the rest of it because I can't see it. Yeah, so I'll pass on this one.
All right, fair. We'll figure out. There's always.
I was
little-
going for workflow automation, David. So
You're going for workflow automation.
yeah, I was.
So, talk to that a little bit. What's the driving factor there? You just want to automate everything?
Yeah, I mean that's the current mindset, right? Is how do we get into that? How do we move to that tipping point where we're automation is the first choice for everything. It's kind of
Okay.
the mantra today.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my pick. I obviously a lot of these are important too.
But with that, does that mean is that solved by you just need an API or is it further?
Yeah, it's just definitely API. I mean, the ability to integrate things is really nice when there's when there's pre-built templates or pre-built connectors and modules. Those are always welcome, in the automation space. But yeah, just that ability to move, workflows, from source to delivery is key for us.
Okay, very good. Ash, is that helpful?
No, it's relevant, and it kind of aligns, like it's there's when we create polls, there's certain questions we we know that are going to be top in some of them as well. Like when you'll see cost, there is usually not in a poll because for every customer, like cost is number key. So I get it. Yeah, security and data privacy, and that's great to hear because that's an area of when we're talking about SaaS consoles, we know customers bring a lot of trust to put their credentials, their data into our cloud. So all this information, this SaaS-based portal is going to be hosted in Dell's cloud, the same kind of cloud we use internally for all of our infrastructure. So yeah, we understand that's key, and there's been a tremendous focus area on making sure that's secure and the encryption standards, everything's up to date. So that's good to see.
So, but it also seems to drive that's just table stakes. So where is it table stakes versus Mike, are you saying it's table stakes or is there something a little bit more than that you need to see?
I mean, that's a great question. I do think security and data privacy and all that is table stakes in today's world. But certainly hearing Ash say that it's a major focus for them and not something that's oh, by the way, we should do this as part of this platform, that's reassuring for sure.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of this is, you can see the last quote, well, it's not showing up anymore, but it was do not use SaaS-based management. So obviously we're investing heavily on the Apex console being able to provide that SaaS-based experience at scale across the customer's entire estate, so they can manage cross cloud, across multiple data centers. But we are working more and more with customers that have regulations on dark sites and things like that. So that's also kind of one of the key takeaways we were trying to understand is how many customers fall into that, hey, I have a dark site limitation. And I know there's several verticals where, in the federal government and in the defense industry where that it falls into play. But that was also a key thing we've been talking to customers more and more on, is taking that SaaS portal in the future and saying, hey, for those customers that can't get connectivity but want that value, how can we containerize that and make that such that they can run that on site under their own security protocols and policies.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Matt, Suzanne, anything you want to weigh in on that?
You know me, automate all the things, right? And
Right.
as a service. So I put in the chat too, and just to kind of add my, or put my hat in the ring too. So one of our focus areas is going to be that workflow automation, but also as a service, right? So that it's consumable and repeatable. We can repurpose and reuse the things. Just like with our API and cloud first strategy, now you've got to have the workflows can't be manual as well. You've got to start looking at automating those, and that can be everything from your approval process to how you actually get things in and out of a pipeline. So just all the things everybody's saying, I'm going to just nod my head and say, yes, these are big focus areas. And I don't think it's you focus on one of these things. I think you focus on all of these things. And then how you do that and how you prioritize is really comes down to you and your business and what your desired outcomes are. So, I think for all of us, those security, very top of mind, obviously. But we want to incorporate security into our automation and our workflow, so that, to me, it's just build it in, and now we can do more, right?
Yeah, it sounds like, so we talked about multi-cloud by design, so security by design as well, not by default.
Yeah, unless you want to be the next headline, right? I was going along with Mike. I think it's kind of table stakes, right? Unless
Yeah.
you want to be the.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it-
a lot of
Sorry.
this stuff can't be afterthought anymore, for sure.
But I think, Ash, what you were saying is, what you do, your team, it does have security as table stakes, but not, it's always, you're thinking about it from the beginning, not as the afterthought. And I think that helps.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about security, I think zero trust security is kind of an overloaded term that a lot of the industry uses. But a lot of the design principles that goes into the base level, even starting at the development stages of our software development and our hardware development is absolutely true. So it's designed with security from all the pieces that come together, so that the end product is built from the ground up with security as a focus. You're right. While it's table stakes, there's multiple layers across, along the way, things that we value add, things we add around, like, that go above and beyond, like supply chain security, some of the security built into the zero trust into the system with the iDRAC. And there's multiple layers of security that go into the value add. So absolutely. So the question is anchored around, yes, about expectations around data privacy and security of your data that you put in there, but also even value add security features we can add that can help drive your day-to-day business. But yes, security, I think every time I talk to a customer, if I say, hey, rattle off the top 2 or 3 things that in your data center, or that you're challenged with, security is always in that top 3. So and in a sense, no one, like Matt said, no one wants to be the next headline. And I heard that actually at DTW several times, where multiple customers were telling me, hey, we don't want to be like those other guys that got in the times that got said that they got hacked or they had ransomware. No one wants to have that. So I get it. And so that's important.
Yeah. And Lane, I think, had a really good comment in the chat too, around health monitoring and really observability. And then how do you get, and I'm assuming, how do you get out of reactive mode for that, right? Because you can't, in a lot of cases, it just hits us, right? And so getting into that more predictive, proactive approach with monitoring observability, right? When I think tools are definitely emerging in this space. So this is obviously could be a clear win for everybody as well.
And building on that too, because I think that the security piece of it, being table stakes, if we go past that, the resilience piece of it, one of the best quotes that I saw was actually from Caitlin Gordon, who's a VP of product management, and she said, I'm going to read it because it's so good. The architecture itself provides multi-availability zone durability, so you can truly have that resilience that you're used to in the data center and bring that to the cloud. I mean, that encompasses really what the overall goal of this is, and really having that same approach whatever cloud you're pointed at.
Yep, for sure.
Mike, I love the fact that you were taking notes during keynotes. That's great. Good job. Good job.
I'm a huge nerd.
Well,
So
and that also, Mike, that also ties back really into a very purposeful, right? Being very thoughtful around a multi-cloud approach. We all may have heard of, the AWS, East Region Lambda issues last week, I think. Yeah. And, so what if you're not reacting quickly enough? And now you're queued up as services come back on. Maybe it's another region within AWS, but now maybe you want to think multi-cloud. Just like in data center architecture, we might have, different 2 different circuits coming in from 2 different companies. we did that for a reason, right? So
Yep.
now maybe our multi-cloud approach should take some of that into consideration as well.
Adapting that same kind of
because-
mindset.
We're all human, right? We all have the same issues. Okay, I know we're getting toward the end, David, and you want to wrap up, but I really want to know who here tried to win the putt at the booth.
And do you have any pictures?
World.
Is there anything that we can share
Yeah.
about, the Elevate presence? This was the first year, folks, if you weren't there, Matt, you missed it. We had a booth. And that was super successful. And yeah, Suzanne and Ann and Mike
Both
were
made the
doing some great
putt, go
stuff.
figure. Yeah, that was, no, I'm not ever gonna let that one go because I actually made the putt, so feeling pretty happy.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is fantastic. Yeah. There's our the Chris Stanley for his first Elevate Technology User Group president role, interviewing and hosting Michael on stage, and then the great conversation with Matt, Paul, and Ash McCarty. And then we had JT, the president, outgoing president or former president, hosting the conversation with Ian Jones from NatWest Group. Ian's got a phenomenal IT transformation story that really, I mean, he took us from 3-tier to V Block with his experience all the way up now to VxRail and Apex solutions that they're adopting. And Ash, you mentioned PowerFlex earlier. He's looking at PowerFlex even. And there's a great picture of the room and the activity in the room. Now, look at this. What do we have here, Suzanne?
So the thing that we don't have here that I think is important is myself and Suzanne evidence that we each made a
Right.
hole in one.
Right.
That's fantastic.
So it was possible, but we only had about a group of maybe 8 who were
Yeah,
able
8 to
to
10,
sync
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were able to
That was
sync
fun.
it, and then we did a drawing for $1,000 airfare credit. So it was great to see everybody kind of gather for the putt off at the last day. But yeah, it was great. Lots of great traffic and a lot of new members too. At DTW, we have over 1,000 new members being part of the user group, and some of you on the call today might be new. If so, please let us know. But it was just great to spread awareness about the rebrand and then also connect with a lot of new members. So it was wonderful having space on the show floor, and we look forward to doing that every year.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was really well done. Congratulations to the team for that.
And we
Yep.
planted trees, let's not forget.
We did. We planted over 800 trees.
Nice.
And that was a great sustainability activity for us to have on site, kind of showing that we're growing as a user group and we want to help everything grow around us. So it was wonderful between the meeting and the booth and all the conversations we had with everybody on site. It was great to connect, and we look forward to, elevating our experience at DTW every year.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it was really cool, really fun. One thing, I do want to take a few minutes. A lot of our members own VxRail, and one of the great things that was at DTW and was really successful was the VD4000. Ash, can you give people just a little bit of what's going on with VxRail and in particular VD4000?
Yeah.
And yeah, Mike and Matt, feel free to react to this too.
Yeah, I think maybe some quick hitters, and then I'll just talk quickly about the VD4000. So I think if you kind of look back over the last, maybe from this year, January to DTW, if you look back December, January, we launched support for VMware vSphere 8. So that brought a host of new functionality that customers are already starting to take advantage of. vSAN Express Storage Architecture, which is the next gen version of vSAN. A lot of excitement there around that. And then also vSphere with DPU. So giving the capability to offload networking and NSX to a DPU off the host. So that's been tremendously receptive. In March, we launched the VD4000, which I'll talk about in a second. And in May, we had a big software launch for the vSphere 70450, which was called Pipton, codename Pipton. I think the key takeaway there was really around enabling more capabilities with our dynamic apps on. So when you use VxRail with PowerStore, as PowerStore is primary storage, you can now initiate lifecycle management within VxRail Manager for PowerStore. And we've just continued to build on the LCM capability, including adding NVIDIA GPUs and more hardened pre-checks. To go back to what we launched in March, we launched the VD4000, which is a brand new platform. It's our most compact platform today. So think of a really short depth platform. So it's very versatile where it can fit. It's a ruggedized platform, so it can be used at far edge, near edge, but also it can be just used in remote sites. Think of 2-node robo. It's also, if you haven't seen the pictures, it's kind of scalable. So it's a 2U multi-node design. So you can put up to 4 compute sleds in a 2U form factor. And it's making a lot of waves because some of the innovation we've introduced. And the last thing I'll say about this is the optional embedded witness. So if you're looking to deploy like a 2-node deployment with a witness, previously you were challenged with having to go find another set of infrastructure to go run the witness and then manage it. We do all that now. You have the embedded witness in the chassis, so kind of a low-cost witness, and we'll manage it all for you with the VxRail software. So hugely, I gave a big session, which was like crowded, 150 people, and it was super receptive. Everyone's really excited about that. So, I love talking about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ash. And, I think we've got our annual meeting coming up at VMware Explore Las Vegas, where we can definitely focus on that quite a bit more.
Yep.
But Mike, we were talking earlier, you mentioned this is interesting. Is there you also had a bunch of conversations with folks. So what are you hearing from other members, or how are you thinking about the VD4000?
Yeah, the VD4000 is definitely created a lot of buzz. I know my team was in the session, and probably standing in the back, as packed as it sounded like it was. We without getting into too much detail, we definitely are looking at it as an option for a couple of different environments, including what Ash was talking about, where we would need the embedded witness or we would need something at the edge. And so excited about that product launch, definitely talking more with Dell and Intel specifically on the offerings that are coming for that VD4000.
Great. Matt, you've got some experience in manufacturing. Are there places that, how well do you think that this could fit into some certain, you and JT, who's not here right now, but you guys have had some neat conversations in the past about, manufacturing sites and stuff. Any thoughts or reactions on that?
Yeah, this is really nice. I know I've been asking for this form factor for a couple of years now. Really excited about the 2-post mounting, ruggedized, bigger temperature range, the embedded witness. I mean, it's a very nice solution for a small manufacturing site. Definitely exciting announcement.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know there's some things that you can talk about and some things you can't talk about, but yeah, I thought you'd be excited about that.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. Folks, let's see. So I mentioned VMware Explore Las Vegas, Elevate Technology User Group is going to be in person there in August. So please be on the lookout for that. If you're going to be there, we'd love you to register and drop in and say hi and join the conversation. I think we've also got, we've got something in July that we're going to do in virtual reality. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we're bringing VR back. It's been a little while, so we're excited to get back in the environment. And Adam Little from the board of directors and New Belgium Brewing will be there, and it's going to be a great program. We'll have the opportunity to attend in VR if you have a headset. Then there's also going to be the Zoom broadcast. And we also have something special worked out with the New Belgium Brewing team. So there'll be some tasting kits. So be on the lookout for how you can get one of those tasting kits.
Tasty tasting kits, I'm sure.
That's going to be fantastic. And it's another Ash, you'll get to put your headset on again.
Yeah.
It's
I
always love it when because my office faces the front kind of walk driveway, and we get the FedEx driver walking up, and you can tell it's the tasting kit coming. It's never a bad day when that happens, for sure.
It's always fun summertime stuff.
Get a little New Belgium in the fridge. Yep, it's not bad.
Yep. be on the lookout for that. Matt, thank you for joining. Mike, thank you for joining. Suzanne, thank you for joining. Ash, thank you for the update. I think this is, fantastic for the members who were there in DTW and got to talk to you, but thank you for coming back. And we look forward to talking to you more and learning more about all these options that are coming. I think it's really going to elevate the conversation. And thank you so much for being a fantastic executive director and helping co-host this.
Of course, no, and thank you all for attending. We're looking forward to upcoming events. We have a lot going on the second half of the year, so stay posted or stay tuned for all of our events that will be posted. And yeah,
I do want to thank our sponsors for making this possible. Dell Technologies, VMware, and Intel. As always, we couldn't have done this without their support. So thank you from all of us.
yes, and when you close out the Zoom today, you'll see a survey pop up. So please share your feedback with us. We need to hear from you, what topics you'd like covered. Your feedback helps plan all of our programs for the members. So thank you again, and hope everyone has a great afternoon or evening.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.